I know some of you guys are here for the run vlog, and I know some of you guys are here for the Bible readings, and other people are here for my scholarship, and some people may even be here for my music, singing, playing instruments. But I think having been on YouTube since 2006, I've maybe earned the right to buck the current trends of simplifying yourself to one area of being. And I'm interested in all those things. So just watch the videos you like. Today, I'm starting my 2016 article called Music Educated and Uprooted, My Story of Rurality, Whiteness, Music and Teaching. So when I presented this one at May Day colloquium, I think this one was presented in New Orleans at that colloquium. There were some pretty big pushback against a lot of these ideas, in particular how critical I am of institutions. But this is 2016, right? A lot of the people on the left politically, right, tended to have had as their solutions ever more bureaucracy, right? The EPA is going to save the environment. The DOE is going to save education. And I know I showed a video of some homeschoolers who were taking their young kids outside to learn just by playing in a creek, right? And then they'd come back and talk about it, what they had found and seen. And the mom was turning that into an educational opportunity, which I felt was such a great way to approach education. And it actually got pushed back just because it was homeschoolers, right? Now I don't send my kid to homeschool. I'd send him to Catholic school, but I do support homeschooling, right? For those who feel the need. I have a great Catholic school here, though. I also have great public school options, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. I just feel that kids should be able to express their spirituality, their religion, their understanding of God more openly than we're allowed to do in public schools, especially at the younger ages. And by high school, kids are a little older. They're more able to compartmentalize those things, right? Whether that's good or not, I don't know. I don't compartmentalize very well. All the things are all together, right? So my scholarship, my spirituality, which has really been growing. So even this is 9 years ago. I have grown so much closer to God, I feel, in the last 9 years, with many challenges in my life. My brother passing a couple years ago. Not being able to find a job in higher education, despite, doing pretty good on the scholarship front, I would say. I don't know that there's anybody who did better in the last 10 years, right? And being a great teacher, right? I don't know that I'm not a perfect teacher for sure, but I'm reflective, and I'm reflective on all of my negative aspects, and I try to do better. Try to do better every time for my kids. And I feel like I would have had a lot to offer, say, an undergrad program, but did not ever get the opportunity for a tenure line job. I did push against the institution for a while. 6.5 years I worked for Penn State Altoona as an adjunct. That was some rough work, right? Not the work itself. The work itself was beautiful. Students were beautiful, but man, adjuncts are not treated well. Not like overtly hostilely, right? But the kind of support, right, that a university gives a scholar, not really there for an adjunct. The kind of salary that would support a living, not there for an adjunct. So lots of the jobs in universities are done by adjuncts for a couple of years and then they move on. And as such, I also moved on to teaching middle school. Exciting news, I have a student teacher for the first time. I'm excited. He seems so energetic. I always heard such bad things from people with student teachers. Student teachers coming in and like being really lazy, not doing anything, and then the teacher has to worry. Well, how am I going to write this person a letter of reference? Do I tell them no? Do I write it and be honest and not lie and say that they're good? Or if I really think this person shouldn't be teaching, they just don't have the motivation. They're going to sit there, look at their phone all day and not teach, right? And there's young teachers that get away with that kind of stuff, right? Just throw on videos after video and then check all the boxes, right? People you would never want to teach your kids. So I had lots of worries, right? But my mentor at Penn State assured me that he was a good fit for me, Linda Thornton. So ultimately I was talked into it in person. I would have never been talked into on an email. So it's a good thing she came to me in person. So anyway, he's pretty awesome so far. Okay, so this article is a special issue of Rural Music Education, which is maybe the first issue of Rural Music Education. So the whole issue, not just my article, could be read as like an edited book, right? And talking about that, Dan Johnson down at University of North Carolina, Wilmington, is putting together a series of 2 books on rural music education. I'm writing chapters for both of them. I've already written for the first one. The second one I'm working on, and that's hard. It's hard to get time writing when you're teaching at a middle school. So we'll see. Hopefully I get it done. Hopefully. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did with my topics. Since this is also part of my scholarship before my first book, 2017 with Rutledge, this stuff goes into that. So if you consider that last article plus this one in Action, Criticism, and Theory for Music Education, those ideas were pushed together and then some more things, right, to make that book. Okay, here's the... So too much talk. I'm already 7 minutes into it and I haven't read a word. Sorry. Okay, as you can see, I was at Penn State Altoona at the time. This article provides a glimpse into one person's subjective experiences of rurality, whiteness, musicking, and teaching. Experiences are shared narratively around the central metaphor, roots. This autoethnography was guided by the question, how has the intersection of rurality, whiteness, and poverty affected my attitudes, actions, and roles relative to music teaching and learning? Music education, a modern certainty that is usually portrayed as a universal good, is challenged as uprooting. This institution is inextricably linked to scarcity, transforming people into homo educandis musicae. She who believes that music education is a prerequisite to meaningful musicking. Homo educandis musicae, with more music education, emerges further uprooted from soil. A rerooting praxis in which students' local places are understood as valuable resources for school music and not places to be left behind in search for better, more cultured musics is recommended. Okay, and I start with the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4. Hear this, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell to the path, and the birds came up and ate it up. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where it had little soil. It sprang up at once, because the soil was not deep. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and it withered for lack of roots. Some seed fell among the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it produced no grain. And some seed fell on rich soil and produced fruit. It came up and grew and yielded 30, 60, and 100-fold. He added, "Whoever has ears ought to hear." There we go. So I'm setting up this whole article, this autoethnographic research by the parable of the sower, right? Because this is about roots. So unlike my topics article, in which I'm explicating eco-literate music pedagogy, right? This is just looking at myself and my experience of rootedness or uprootedness. So as an autoethnography, it's going to have lots of reflections and lots of creative writing. At times, this article can feel like it goes off in a direction and then wanders on back. And that's how it should read. Like, I'm going to continue. December 1997, withering. "We are not going to renew your contract at the end of the school year, Mr. Shevock." A salty, bitter taste emerged in my mouth. I hadn't expected this to happen at this meeting, at least not so soon and with so few opportunities to prove myself. Why not more than 2 observations before being labeled a failure? It was a foggy December morning in suburban Maryland. Still uncomfortable in a conservative dress shirt, pants, and tie, I was sitting at a short table in a drab cafeteria with 2 middle-aged white men, a middle school principal and county music supervisor. I'd expected to be observed in the elementary setting, where I felt I was doing better. Why was there no opportunity to grow as a middle school band director? Just graduated in August, I was the student teacher of the year last spring. Now I was withering. I knew I was struggling to connect with my students, but this was a punch in the gut. Angry, hurt, disillusioned. Who could I confide in and vent with? I had made 2 friends since moving to Maryland, but leaves are not the same as roots. Maybe I needed an authority figure I could trust, a mentor to confide in. My family was a 4-hour drive. I doubt my old truck would survive many trips that distance. I spent my mornings teaching a 100-member 7th grade band and then group lessons. During afternoons, I drove to the northern part of the county to teach an elementary band program. Then I drove past miles upon miles of cookie-cutter housing developments and lackluster strip malls to my home. Home? Home is a word I'm uncomfortable using to describe that stark apartment. I lived alone and never even met my neighbors. And I'd sit and pass the time eating Little Debbie snack cakes, the same ones I used to buy as a child on my walks to Warfield's Family Market. Feeling disconnected and unhappy, feeling uprooted, alone in my tiny apartment, I asked myself, will it be okay? Introduction. Because musicking experiences occur in many places and are affected by many people and various conditions, in this autoethnography, my reflections on rurality, whiteness, musicking, and teaching may lead to understandings of what Eliot and Silverman identify as musical contexts. Quote, "By this we mean all possible musical spaces and places, classrooms and community settings, social, historical, political, economic, gendered, architectural, and situations in which musics are being made by students, amateurs, and professional music makers. All these factors have profound impact on the nature of musical understanding as it's conceived and applied in a specific form of music and on how it undergoes minor or radical changes." End quote. Bates concluded his self-reflective article by recognizing the limitations inherent in this type of research. Quote, "The themes I've discussed in this article are, of course, my own perspectives. I recognize that this is a limited perspective, and aside from what others have shared, I can only intuit that others may have had similar experiences." End quote. The current article is limited in the same way and provides a glimpse into my experiences as I subjectively experienced them. The stories shared here are not meant to be generalized, but rather should be read with other autoethnographies, case studies, phenomenologies, histories, and also theory. The musical context I consider in this autoethnography are rurality, whiteness, musicking, and teaching, and are shared narratively around the central metaphor, roots, In context of this article, music education as one of the modern certainties, which is usually portrayed as a universal good in society, in music education we hear it's good for every child, will necessarily be challenged as uprooting. To do so, I draw on Illichian scholarship, the philosophy of Ivan Illich, and no scholars who have used his ideas, which is uniquely radical. To quote Fauble, the surprising and deeply radical aspect of what Illich has to say is that the danger stems not just from the obvious sources, say the military or the hegemony of multinational corporations, but more fundamentally from those elements of modernity that appear to most people as undeniable benefits: education, healthcare, transportation, equality of the sexes, communication, self-help, labor-saving machines, economic development, and so on, end quote. In particular, Illichian critiques of education and economic development are pertinent to the current autoethnography. We'll stop right there. We're going to pick up next time on page 32 with the guiding questions. So right there we have my first reflection and a start of an introduction. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.